Hey guys, in this month's top 5, I'm going to be sharing with you my 5 favorite cancelled TV series. So, it's most likely happened to everybody. You watch a TV show, you get attached, and then the network is like, I'm gonna behead it. I'm gonna behead this beloved series that you love. You personally, I'm gonna destroy it and cancel it. We've all been there, haven't we? I'm assuming. We've all had that emotional feeling that a show that we're enjoying and we're like, ooh, this is bound to get renewed for another season, and it doesn't. Huh. So yeah, I managed to compile a list here of 5 TV series that have been cancelled in the past, shows that were just really beloved to me, and I was devastated that they got cancelled. And you guys, I actually have a spreadsheet on my computer. I have a spreadsheet, and I had like a list of like 20 plus TV series that have been canceled that I enjoyed. So this is just going to be one of many videos that I do in the future, because there's just so many shows, and I had a really difficult time kind of narrowing down the list. So I was like, you know what, in the future I'll do another one of these videos because there's just so many shows that were canceled that were so freaking good. Also of note with this list, it's not just going to be shows that were canceled after one season. Some of these shows were canceled after 2 seasons, and then I even have a show on here that was canceled after 3 seasons. And yeah, there's nothing worse than a show being canceled after it has like multiple seasons, because it's like, why? So yeah, I got 5 here, and I'm very curious if you guys watched these shows and if you were devastated like me, or yeah, do you have no recollection of these shows? I'm very, very curious. At number 5, I have Forever. This aired on the ABC network, and it ran from 2014 into 2015, and it only had 1 season. Forever starred Welsh actor Ioan Gruffudd, who I adore, you guys. You guys probably don't know this about me, but Ioan Gruffudd is like one of my favorite actors like ever. I love him, and I feel like not enough American people know who the hell he is. So yeah, this series, Forever, like I said, it only had the 1 season, but when it came on in the fall of 2014, it originally had about like a 10 episode lineup, and then ABC was like, okay, we'll pick it up for an additional 10 episodes, you know, to kind of air into the spring of 2015. So I thought for sure, since ABC had ordered like an additional second half of the season, I was like, oh, they're going to for sure pick this up for a season 2, you know? But no, they didn't. It just had the 1 season. It was like about 22 episodes, something about that. And yeah, what the show was about, it followed Ioan Gruffudd's character, who was like a medical examiner. But here's the twist, you guys. He's not just a medical examiner. He's an immortal medical examiner, but not a vampire, okay? He's not a vampire. There's a big lengthy backstory to how he became immortal, but something has happened that he's become immortal, and he takes a lot of risks with his profession and the things he kind of does, because he kind of also acts as a bit of a sleuth, you know, a detective, an amateur detective, kind of trying to figure out how, like I said, because he's a medical examiner, you know, how some of these dead bodies in front of him, how have they wound up dead? So yeah, he'll take a lot of risks and go out and try to hunt down the bad guys. And the thing is, a lot of times that does result in his death. And he does legitimately die, but for some reason, this curse that he has, he'll die and then just come back to life. And there's no, you know, no like 9 lives, you know, he doesn't have like that, like 9 lives. I mean, he can just die over and over and over and over. It doesn't matter, you know, every time he'll come back from the dead and just resume things. And yeah, that was the basis of the show, and it was such a clever concept, you know, because there's so many shows that, you know, there's so many procedural shows out there that deal with like the job of forensics, or with medical examiners, or with police, or whatever. You know, there's so many shows out there, and what Forever did that was just really unique was this idea of him being a medical examiner on the surface, but yeah, there's this deeper backstory with some sort of curse that's causing him to be immortal, you know? So it added an extra interesting layer to the show, rather than it just being kind of this, you know, the crime of the week, the murder of the week, you know? And it was just a really brilliant, unique show, and such a shame that it only had one season. And it seems like just about every single show that I watch with Jan Griffiths, it seems like he'll always have like one season of a show, and it always gets canceled, you know? It always seems like his shows get canceled, and I'm always so devastated. It's like, why do I get my hopes up, you know? So yeah, you guys, have you guys seen the show Forever? I'm not quite sure where you can watch it, you know, like to binge it, because it's definitely not on Netflix right now. I mean, I don't know if it could possibly be on something like Hulu or Amazon. I'm sure it's out on DVD somewhere, but yeah, if you have not seen Forever, I definitely highly recommend it. At number 4, I have Camelot. Camelot aired on the Showtime network, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was Showtime, not Stars. Camelot aired on, I'll say Showtime, in the year of 2011, and it had one season. Camelot was essentially a retelling of the legend of King Arthur. Playing King Arthur, you had Jamie Campbell Bower. Playing Merlin, you had Joseph Fiennes, which was epic, you guys. And then the reason that you watched Camelot was for the performance of Ava Green, who played Morgan Le Fay. Yeah, guys. This, like I said, Camelot had one freaking season. It's a shame. I was fully expecting it to have multiple seasons, because they just set up a lot of familiar territory. You know, if you're familiar with the story of King Arthur, the show did a great job of kind of setting up a lot of stuff, you know, for future seasons with various different things from Arthurian legend. And the show wasn't perfect, okay? Let me get that out of the way. Camelot, the show, it had, I believe it was 10 episodes. If I'm not mistaken, it was 10 episodes. The show itself, it wasn't perfect. It definitely had kind of its share of problems, because sometimes it did feel like it was trying to be sexy for the sake of being sexy, rather than telling a good, compelling story, you know? It was just trying to be really bold and risque and crazy when it didn't really need to be sometimes, and sometimes it would just cause a lot of pacing and storytelling issues, you know? But the stuff that was really good was really good. And like I mentioned, Ava Green was the reason you watched this show. I mean, it's very much like Penny Dreadful, which Ava Green was also on, which fortunately had 3 seasons. You know, Penny Dreadful was a freaking amazing show, but yeah, the core of that show was Ava Green. And I feel like it's kind of the same with Camelot. Ava Green was Camelot. And it was a very beautifully shot show. It just looked so great. The costumes were great. It was just a really interesting take on the story of King Arthur. And yeah, I mean, this was pretty much kind of right off of the heels of the BBC version of Merlin. You know, and that show was a bit more kid-friendly, and it didn't really take too many risks, you know, but it was still a really fantastic, you know, take on the story of King Arthur. And yeah, here comes Camelot, which is a much more adult and graphic version of the story. So yeah, you guys, did you guys ever watch the one poor season of Camelot? Because it was pretty great for what it was, and I think there was definitely potential for it to go beyond, but alas, it did not. At number 3, I have the 2 seasons that we had of Gallivant. Gallivant was an ABC show. Like I just mentioned, it had 2 seasons. The first season had, I think, like 8 episodes, and then season 2 had 10 episodes. And it ran from, let me look at my notes, it ran from 2015 to 2016. And Gallivant, if you weren't aware of the insanity that was Gallivant back in the day, like it was just a couple years ago, but Gallivant was essentially ABC's attempt at doing a comedy musical. And I think what sparked the creation of Gallivant in some ways was the extreme popularity of Once Upon a Time, which was also on the air. And yeah, pretty much at its peak. This was kind of the peak period of Once Upon a Time at the time. And Once Upon a Time was like a fairy tale retelling sort of thing with all your favorite Disney characters. And yeah, Gallivant, I feel, was kind of a product of that popularity of Once Upon a Time, and ABC kind of trying to kind of have that family-friendly sort of show, you know? And yeah, Gallivant, it did. It just had the 2 seasons, which is a shame. And the thing is, it was a musical from start to finish. Every episode had multiple songs in it. And yeah, it was composed by people who had worked on music for Disney movies, because I believe Alan Menken, who did like, you know, the music for The Little Mermaid, for instance, like he was a part of doing the music for Gallivant. And yeah, I mean, it didn't shy away from the music, you know, it certainly did not shy away from the music. There was multiple songs per episode telling the story, and it was first and foremost a musical comedy, a satire, essentially. And yeah, pretty much, it was pretty much a cast of unknowns at the time. And yeah, all of them could sing, and that was the great thing too. Every single actor and actress on the show could sing, and they were very good at it. And what was so great about Gallivant, it poked fun at, you know, medieval trope, because that's the thing, it took place in like a medieval setting. It poked fun at like medieval tropes and settings and the type of characters, and yeah, it followed a guy named Gallivant, the lead of the show. It followed a guy named Gallivant who was like a knight, and his lady love has been kidnapped by this guy in a neighboring kingdom, and so he goes off to go rescue his lady love, but he finds out that she doesn't want to go back to him. She'd much rather stay with the king who kidnapped her because he has riches and gold and she could be queen. So it already starts off kind of, you know, subverting those tropes, you know, that the hero is going off to rescue his lady love, but she don't want to go. She wants the money and the riches, not her love. And yeah, that's kind of the whole show, is Gallivant, you know, trying to deal with my love does not want me no more, and him trying to be a knight again, and trying to save all these various different kingdoms, but through song. And Gallivant was just such a clever show, you guys. It was just wildly insane. It wasn't perfect, because, you know, some episodes could be hit or miss, but for the most part, it was just an incredibly fun and goofy show full of all sorts of pop culture references. And that's the thing, too. It made a ton of Game of Thrones references, because, yeah, when Gallivant first started, this was also kind of when Game of Thrones was at its peak and whatnot, and there's tons of Game of Thrones jokes in it, and parodying a lot of Game of Thrones things, and yeah, even The Princess Bride, because remember, The Princess Bride is also like a comedy satire, and yeah, even the show Gallivant would poke fun at like certain things with like The Princess Bride, which was hilarious. So yeah, you guys, has anyone seen the very short-lived comedy musical known as Gallivant? Because it was excellent. All 2 seasons are up on Netflix, you guys. If you have a Netflix account, I highly recommend checking out Gallivant. At number 2, I have Timeless, you guys. Timeless ran for 2 very short-lived seasons, and then came back for like a final 2-hour movie, thank God. And yeah, it ran from 2016 to 2018. And the premise of Timeless, I feel like the title almost kind of says it all to some degree. Timeless was almost kind of like Doctor Who, in a way, but what it was about this group of people who were all just very smart and intelligent, you know, especially with science and math and like history especially, being very knowledgeable about stuff. And yeah, the whole show was about this group of people working together to go back in history because they were fighting against this secret, sinister group who was trying to go back in history to mess up certain big events in history, to fix something in, you know, the present day or whatever. So the show was kind of literally this whole notion of a race against time to some degree. You know, our heroes trying to beat and outwit the bad guys before the bad guys did something to mess up history, which in turn would mess up something in the present future or whatever, if that makes sense. Just to give you some examples, like episode 1 of the series, our characters, they have to get in their time machine, because they literally have a time machine, you guys. It's a very creative, unique looking time machine. It's like this circular orb looking thing, which is kind of really cool and gritty looking. But yeah, our heroes have to go into into history because our set of bad guys in episode 1, they're trying to prevent the destruction of the crash of the Hindenburg. So yeah, with what purpose? You know, with what purpose do they want to? With what purpose do the bad guys want to prevent the crash of the Hindenburg? You know, and though it pains our heroes, the thing is, history can't be messed with. You know, history has happened. Things happened for a reason. And you just can't mess with it. And so the heroes have to ensure that the Hindenburg still goes up in a fiery blaze, you know? And then, like, another episode, somebody is, I believe they're trying to prevent, are they trying to prevent the assassination of Lincoln? I'm trying to remember how that episode went. I think they're trying to prevent the assassination of Lincoln, but our heroes, it's like, it still has to happen, you know? History is history, it still has to happen. It's things like that, you know, these big events, and sometimes like even smaller events, that even though something terrible may have happened, it's like, you need to let it still go, you know? The whole butterfly effect sort of thing. So Timeless, it was such a brilliant show. You guys, especially for someone like me, I love all things history, and this show was just right up my alley. It was this combination of science fiction and historical fiction, and I've mentioned this before because I love Doctor Who, which is a time travel show as well. Doctor Who, some of my favorite episodes are the historical based episodes, and so Timeless was kind of this great combination of being this weird cross of, you know, Doctor Who and history and whatnot. And Timeless, not only did it explore some big events like the crash of the Hindenburg or the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, not only did it do some big events, but it also just did a lot of little small random things, especially things that not a lot of people know about, you know? Not a lot of, you know, they showcased a lot of historical people that many people don't even know about, a lot of events that not many people know about. And it was just a great way to broaden and open up history. Because something else that the show did really brilliantly as well, it would focus a lot on people of color, you know, these unheard of people of color that did something impactful for the future of history. And yeah, they showcased a lot of stuff, important things that women did that have been forgotten about nowadays. And it was just a really great show that incorporated a lot of these unknown elements of history, and it really taught you something. You know, it was weirdly enough, it was a very educational show, but made it really fun and entertaining at the same time. And like I said, it did have the 2 seasons. It was originally canceled after the first season, but then after fanfare, NBC was like, okay, we're going to pick it up for a second season. And then, after season 2, NBC canceled it again, much to the ire of the fans who loved it. But NBC promised, okay, we'll at least do a final 2-hour movie to wrap everything up. Thank God we got the 2-hour movie. It was really quick and rushed because I think the writers knew exactly what they were aiming for, like whenever they would reach the series finale, you know, whenever that would have been. I think they had an idea of what they wanted to do and where the series would ultimately go. And yeah, it's like they were kind of rushing through all that in the final 2 hours to kind of create a satisfying ending for the fans. And it was terribly rushed and kind of all over the place, but at the same time, it's like, well, at least we got this finale, you know, for the diehard fans. So yeah, anybody else, have you seen the short-lived Timeless? It was such a beautiful show. Just very, it's fun and entertaining moments, but also just moments where you'd be crying your eyes out and be so emotional and devastated. Such a great show, you guys. I wish like Netflix or somebody had picked it up because it would have been great on Netflix. At number 1, you guys, is Tyrant. This show, Tyrant, I'm just the most bitter and angry by the cancellation of Tyrant, you guys. And like I kind of mentioned at the very start of this video, you know, because I was going to have shows that were canceled after 1 season, shows that were canceled after 2 seasons. Tyrant was canceled after 3 seasons. And I freaking hate when that happens, you guys. I hate when a show has been on for like 3 or more years, and then all of a sudden the network is like, oh, we're just going to cancel this. You know, it just feels like such a disservice to fans. You know, it feels like such a disservice to people who have spent the time and energy watching this show, and then you just cancel it, you know, instead of giving it at least 1 final season to satisfy the people who do watch it. And yeah, Tyrant is a great example of this. It aired originally on the FX channel. I want to say that Hulu currently has the entire show, so if you have a Hulu account, you can probably watch all of Tyrant on Hulu. But yeah, it had 3 seasons originally, and it aired from 2014 to 2016. And Tyrant, what Tyrant was about, it took place in a modern-day fictional Middle Eastern country. And it followed this family who was very wealthy, who were essentially in charge of this fictional country, okay? And it was such an epic show, you guys. FX really went all out with the budget and everything with it, because I think at the time it was one of the most expensive shows on the FX network. It was hugely expensive, very controversial at the time, just kind of the subject matter that it was dealing with, since it did take place in a Middle Eastern country. Oh my god, you guys, Tyrant. Because also during this time, Game of Thrones was going on, and Tyrant, to me, was essentially the modern-day version of, like, Game of Thrones, you know? You have Game of Thrones in, like, a medieval setting. Tyrant was in, like, a contemporary modern setting, and Tyrant felt very much like Game of Thrones. Their characters, it's like, oh, this character's like Cersei, this character's like Joffrey, this character's like Jon Snow. I mean, every character on Tyrant, you could kind of pinpoint, you know, their counterpart on, like, Game of Thrones, for instance. And I freaking loved Tyrant, you guys. Tyrant was just absolutely amazing. My obsession with Tyrant was just as great as my obsession with Game of Thrones at the time. Tyrant, I think it was just amazingly written. Every episode there was something important and integral going on. Most of the episodes usually ended on some wild and crazy cliffhanger, just leaving you wanting more. And yet every season, you know, the seasons would end and it's like, oh my god, what is going to happen? I can't wait another year for this. And I feel like a lot of people did not watch this show because, yeah, at the time it was badly reviewed and there was not a lot of positivity about it at all, which is kind of insane because, yeah, it got 3 seasons, you know? It's like, even though there's a lot of negativity, it's like it still managed to get 3 seasons. But yeah, I loved it. I personally didn't have a problem with it. I mean, the complaints that people did have about it, I understand. But for me, the complaints didn't really bother me. I personally love the show. I was obsessed with it. If it had been available as like in like a binge format, I would have binged through every season. And yeah, the third season came along, and just out of nowhere, FX was like, "Oh, we're going to cancel it." And the third season did have a cliffhanger, you guys. It did have a massive cliffhanger, kind of giving you some ideas about where a possible season 4 would have gone. And yeah, it did. It definitely felt like a disservice to the fans who had stuck around for 3 seasons. And yeah, the way Tyrant ended that third season, I kind of kept thinking to myself, oh, there's probably just one more season anyway. You know, I was like, I don't imagine this going for another 2 seasons or so. I think season 4 probably would have been it had FX just let it go for another season and let the creators finish the story in a proper manner, you know? So yeah, Tyrant is just one of those shows to this day, I am still very, very bitter about it, and I wish more people had watched it and not listened to all of the negative reviews and all the controversy surrounding it, because I think it was just really unfair. So, you guys, that is it for this top 5 with 5 randomly canceled TV shows. And like I mentioned, I would love to do another one of these in the future because, like I mentioned earlier, I have a spreadsheet of like 20 plus shows that were canceled, and I was like, man, I can do like a whole nother video, you know? I can do several more videos because there's so many shows that I love that have been canceled. So you guys, in the comments below, have you guys seen any of the shows that I just talked about? Or you personally, what's a show that was canceled that you were most devastated by? Just share with me down below. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.